Guys, I want to give you a deal update on a deal we closed about 2 years ago. If you listen to the podcast, you know about 108 units in Houma, Louisiana. Houma, Louisiana. It's about 45 minutes from New Orleans. And a guy in the deal room, Caleb Bro, found this deal. And the cool thing about this deal was it was pretty nice. You know, it was built in the 70s. It was fairly full. The rents were kind of low, but not too low. And it was in decent condition. And he got this thing for $3.5 million. So if you do the math on that, that's like $32,000, $33,000 a unit. And they were rented for $700, $800 a unit. So pretty good rents. The reason that this thing was selling at the price it was because the insurance was really high, right? Think about the Bayou, Louisiana, right there on the coast. Houma had gotten struck by Hurricane Ida a few years prior, and the insurance premiums were really high. So they had non-recourse agency debt on that. And agency debt, although it is great, you can get good rates on it, they have very high insurance requirements for these loans. And if you want to get that loan, you've got to play ball with what kind of insurance they want you to have. And so the owner had passed away, and he had given this complex, I believe, to his son, who, believe it or not, lived here in Charleston, you know, very far away. And they were managing it through a third-party manager, but the insurance premiums were like north of $300,000 a year. And so they were just getting crushed on these insurance premiums, and it was sucking up all the money. This thing really wasn't making much after debt service and insurance. And then you also have the ongoing repairs and maintenance and unit turns and everything else that goes into managing an apartment complex. And so he wanted to sell it. He was, I believe, a medical professional, doctor, surgeon, something like that. And he really wasn't in multifamily. So it's kind of like, hey, Dad, thanks for the thing, but I don't want it. I want to sell it. And we bought it. So while we were buying the property, like as we had under contract, we decided to get new debt on it. We weren't going to try and go agency. We're going to go with a local bank. And that way we could get better insurance requirements, a little bit more relaxed insurance requirements. There was also a corner of a building that was touching a floodplain. However, it really shouldn't have been. And so we contested that. We got the floodplain moved back like 3 or 4 feet, and then the building was completely out of it. That way we didn't need an additional flood policy, which was like $20,000, $30,000 extra a year. And the new premium dropped down to like $120,000, $130,000 versus $300,000 plus. So there was a huge value add in the net operating income, right? The profit that the deal is going to make every month just by doing that. The other value add was if we replaced all of the electrical panels, that was going to lower the premium. That was one of the reasons we got it down so far. And then rents were 10 to 15 to 20% below what other people in the market were getting. And so we took on this deal. There was about a $900,000 rehab budget. So we were all into the deal for about $4.5 million, which is still a really good basis for 108 units in the condition that it was in, but driven by the market and the amount of money. That's one thing you've got to understand in commercial real estate is they don't look at it like single family house. Like, oh, this is a 3,000 square foot house. It's in this town, so it's worth $300,000 because everything else is worth $300,000. They look at it more like there is a base value, but how much money does this thing make? And so a 50 unit that's a class A that doesn't need much maintenance and repairs, it may trade for a much higher price, right? Because its expense ratio is only 35%. A 50 unit that's a class C built in 1970 that has higher ongoing maintenance repairs, maybe it's in a different market where the taxes are higher, the insurance is higher, it could trade at a far less price per door just because it doesn't make as much money per year. And investors really look at this stuff dispassionately. They look at it like, I don't care about the crown molding. I don't care about this and that. I don't fall in love with it like people do with single family homes. I care about how much money is this thing going to put into my pocket every month? Is it going to be an asset or is it going to be a liability? And the way this thing was operating, it was kind of a liability. So we pretty much got it just at the land and sticks and bricks value. But after we closed with the new loan and the new insurance policy, they gave us credit for already replacing the electrical panels. And we got that done within the next 6 months or so. And then we started to work on getting those rents up and getting the occupancy up and up and up. And so within about, I think it was 18, maybe 20 months, we were done. You know, we had T12s showing the new financials. We had the rents gone from, you know, average of $750 up to average of $850. And we took it back to the bank, different bank. And we decided we were going to go back with agency non-recourse debt. One, because it is in a hurricane area, and that's something that we definitely got to consider. And it was going to be one that we were going to flip. But we got pretty attractive terms on the debt. The building appraised for like $7.8 million, right? And we had just bought it for 3.5 and put $1 million into it. So our basis was like 4.6 or 4.5-ish. And so we looked at that, and the bank was like, yeah, it's worth this based on your NOI, but they wouldn't give us a very great loan. They wouldn't push our LTV up to 65, 70% like you typically can, because they looked at like, well, you just bought it here. We're not going to give you that much value, but we're willing to take out your loan, take out your cash, and we got a little cash on top, maybe $150,000, $200,000 in additional cash. But in this market, it was a huge win to do a full BRRRR deal and cash out, refinance all the investors' capital. Because when we bought this, we raised about $1.2 million of investor cash plus the loan to do the renovations and to buy the building. And so we did that, right? We paid everybody back. We paid back the GPs and their money that they had in the deal. We paid back the LPs. And now we're rolling along. And so I sat in on a monthly call this morning with the team and talked about, okay, well, where's the property at now? And so occupancy, we have 2 vacancies. So 2 vacancies out of 108, that's 99% occupied. And one of the vacancies is pre-leased. So they already have a lease there, and the person's probably moving in the next week or 2. So that drops us down to 1 vacancy. Our delinquency is about $6,000, so not terrible. You always want that to be 0, but it never seems like it is. And our rent roll, like what we are, collecting now with the occupancy, is about $101,000 a month. Right? So when we bought this, we were collecting somewhere between $68,000 and $72,000. So now we've pushed the rent roll by 30-40%. We're at $101,000. And we're routinely collecting, 95 to, well, you can do the math. 101 minus 6 is $94,000. So that's what we're going to collect in May. And so huge, huge change. And so now we're looking at the cash flow, right? So we have decided that every month we can distribute $15,000 to the investors in the deal. Right? The way we structured that deal was 50-50. Investors got 50, general partners got 50. Now the investors are cashed out of the deal. They got their money. They got a little bit of a preferred return on their money while it was in the deal. Or actually, no, there was no pref, but they got about a 5 to 6% return on their cash while it was in the deal. And then now they're getting, 50% of $15,000 is $7,500 times 12 is $80,000, $90,000 a year. So not a ton off of 1.2 million, but remember, they don't have 1.2 million in the deal anymore. They've got their 1.2 million back in their bank account. They put it into another investment. They spent it on a boat. I don't know what they did with it. Doesn't matter. But they're making this cash flow with no risk anymore. They're not signing on the debt. And the risk to the GP side is also limited because it's a non-recourse loan. We didn't personally guarantee the principal balance of the loan. And the crazy thing is this deal actually cash flows like $23,000 to $33,000 a month. We're just stacking up our reserves. We've got about 6 figures in reserves right now. We're coming into hurricane season, so we want to bolster that a little bit more. But now we've got a deal that is generating, $260,000 to $350,000 a year in free cash flow after paying the mortgage, after paying the taxes, after paying the insurance, all maintenance, repairs, management fees, everything. And so that is coupled with not having any money in the deal. So we put our money at risk for about a year and a half, 2 years. We executed the plan, and now we've got a major winner on our hands. And so we're talking about, well, what's our next move, right? So we have a couple of options. One is to sell the property. You say, well, it appraised for 7.8 and you're only in it for 4.5, 4.6 for your loan. Like, why don't you do that and make $3 million? That'd be amazing. Just because something appraises for that doesn't mean that's what it's actually going to sell for. And in talking with Caleb, we probably think this might trade more in the 6 to 6.5 range, and then you pay brokers and you pay taxes, and it's a win for sure, but it's not the win that you're maybe thinking in your brain of they're about to make $3 million. Not the case. You're also going to get hit with recapture of depreciation. We depreciated the building when we bought it. We got a lot of tax incentives. When we sell, we're going to have to recapture that. And so we're going to get doubly whacked with taxes. Second option would be to refinance. After another year, our yield maintenance burns off. So the first loan, we have yield maintenance for 2 years, meaning if we refinance or sell, we have to pay the interest that the bank would have made over that period of time. And so we don't really want to do that. It doesn't make sense to do that. It's fairly expensive to do that. But let's just say we're a year down the road, we go to refinance. Let's say we get a good appraisal of, $7.8 million. We could potentially get a $6 million loan, 75% LTV, because now we've owned the deal for 4 years and banks feel more comfortable with that. And so we could cash out another $1.5 million tax-free that we distribute to the investors, 50-50. We get $750, they get $750. Problem with that, though, is your debt goes up. So it kind of depends on where the rates go. If the rates stay where they're at or go higher, then our debt service is going to go up, which is going to decrease our free cash flow. So, and also lever up the risk on the deal. The more debt you have on the deal, the more probability and possibility that you have of going under, the less storm you can weather. But cashing out refinancing is a good play. Because you're not tying up that equity anymore, and you can get that equity now working in another deal or in another investment. Third option is we've got 5 years on this loan. I think we've got four left, maybe 4.5 left. We could just let it alone for 5 years and cash flow $20 to $30,000 a month, distribute $15 a month, save up the rest. If it gets too big, maybe we do a bonus distribution around Christmas time, something like that. All good problems to have. But we don't get that lump sum as if we had refinanced or sold. So that's the drawback of that. And so this deal, which was going to be a quick flip, we have now walked into a deal that's really, really solid. It's 99% occupied. We're able to get the rents where we want. Hopefully the rents at least stay where they're at or maybe grow over the next 5 years. We'll see. But it's easy to hold. And we can continue to pay down debt. We can continue to let the value of that building rise as we increase the NOI. And we don't have a whole lot of major CapEx hurdles in front of us because we fixed a lot of that when we first bought it with the $900,000 cash inflection. So that's probably what we're going to do, is at least just hold it and cash flow it for another 2 to 3 years and see what happens in year 5, where it's like, okay, your loan is maturing. It is time to refinance. What options do you want? But I have found when I buy multifamily or any commercial property, they don't all work great. They don't all cash flow great. They don't all stay occupied. They don't all have good bones and don't need a whole lot of maintenance. Some projects and properties, for whatever reason, a few things go wrong. You didn't finish your rehab. You got a rough tenant base. The market's declining, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a great buy and hold. It's not a great one to hold. And so you got to shed those. But when you do have the ones that are working and are cash flowing and are easy to manage and easy to hold and easy to keep full, you kind of want to keep a hold on them. At least I do. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen with the Houma deal is, hey, it ain't that easy to identify this kind of deal. We won, we stabilized it. We refinanced everybody out. Let's just hang on to it. Let's collect our $15K a month, and hopefully that'll increase over time. And in 3 or 4 more years, if we want to refinance and pull a little bit of cash out, fine. I'm also not a huge fan of levering that debt way up. Now, in this deal, I'm not a loan guarantor. So if they want to lever up the debt, I mean, it's up to them because I'm not on that debt. So if it goes sideways, the bank's not going to be looking at me to make good on that. So it's kind of majority decision by them, what they want to do and how much debt they want to sign on. But my thought would be, if you want to pull out a little bit, fine, but probably utilize that cash for improving the property. Let's replace some more air conditioners. Maybe we need to re-roof the property, something like that, to keep it, like harden it for the next decade. Now, why am I telling you this story? So in real estate, I've got example after example after example of identifying people's problems. The problem here was a guy owned this that didn't know what he was doing, didn't want to know what he was doing. This just wasn't his industry. And I don't fault him at all. This dude's a surgeon. His dad was running it. He passed away. Now he's got this problem dumped on his lap. He's got to meet with the management company. He's wondering why his property isn't making any money. He's getting hit with tax bills, insurance increases. He's got to deal with this huge loan that he never necessarily signed up for. And it is a problem that he doesn't want to deal with. Could he have gone through the flood zone recertification process? Yes. Could he have refinanced out of the non-recourse debt and gone with a local bank, maybe gotten his insurance down? Yes. Could he have shopped at 10 different insurance companies and figured out the best matrix of premiums? Yes. But he didn't want to do any of that. And he probably is better served focusing on what he's good at and his industry, and to just take the money that he's going to get from that and invest it in whatever he does, whatever he's comfortable with, whatever he knows. But that problem created an opportunity for us because this is what we know. This is our field. This is something that we're good at. And Caleb owns a property management company and lives in the town. And he is actively managing this property and tuning it up and eye on the ball and finger on the pulse of the numbers every single week. And he's also getting compensated for that. And so that vertical integration of being in a field that you're an expert in and solving a problem, knowing how you can solve a problem, we were able to create not just cash flow, but a large, significant portion of wealth. Because if we sold it today, we may not get the price we want because multifamily is a little bit down. It's a little bit the redheaded stepchild of the industry right now. But 3, 4, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't know. I don't know what that property is going to be worth. But it's not unreasonable to think in 10 years it could be worth 8, 9 million. In 20 years it could be worth, 12, 13 million. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But we were able to solve that guy's problems. And when you can connect problems with solutions, that's where you make money. The deal that I talked about, I think last week on the warehouse in Michigan, colleague found an empty warehouse. That's a problem. It's not making any money. He connected with a tenant who was, it was too big of a space. They were paying more than they wanted to, and their rent was choking the growth of their business. That's a problem. And he connected those two pieces together. Hey, you can get into a space that's plenty big enough for what you're doing, and you can pay way cheaper rent, and we're going to upfit it for you, and we're going to solve your cash flow problem for your business. It's a win-win. Now he takes a property that was vacant and now it's leased and it's got a 7-year lease in place. And so the valuation of that building almost tripled in that instance. I'm thinking about my flex warehouse. It's like my buyers have problems. They can't find space. The spaces that are available are way, 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 way too big and way, 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 way too expensive. So if I can sell them a smaller bay, 1,000, 2,000 square feet, for a reasonable price, it gives them a warehouse and a bathroom. And if they want to build an office out, they can have that. It's exactly what they need for their business. And that's why I think we've pre-sold 16 of them at this point before we've even broken ground, because that was a major pain point for these small business owners. Talking to a guy, he had a fire He had a fire and he called me. He said, hey, do you have any warehouse space? I need to rent something. And instead of, well, and I didn't have anything because my warehouses aren't built yet. But I just said, well, what are you going to do with your property that burned? And he doesn't want to deal with it. It's half burnt. The business is going to need to be shut down. And it's a problem that he doesn't want to deal with. He wasn't happy with this business anyways. And so I said, hey, don't worry about it. Just leave it as is. I'll take it. I'll clear it up. I'll clean it up. And we'll buy it for X amount of dollars. And this will be a great move for you. We're solving his problem. And if I can, create opportunity there by rebuilding the building, whatever happens there, we'll see. That's an opportunity. I'm at a party. Like Memorial Day. I'm talking to a guy who I've known for a while, and he says that he's coming into some money. I'm not going to get into details because it's private, but he's coming into some money. It's a significant amount of money. And it's going to happen in the next month or two. And he's worried about taxes. He's like, I'm going to, make X. And I'm like, dude, you're going to owe like millions of dollars in taxes. And he is aware of that, but not really. Like, he's not in this industry. And I said, well, you could do this, you could do that. He's like, well, I don't like the stock market. I really like real estate. I'm thinking about maybe buying some more Airbnbs. He had a few Airbnbs. I said, yeah, Airbnbs are good. You can do depreciation, but like, dude, you're going to need to buy like 20 Airbnbs to offset this tax liability that you have. Do you really want to manage 20 Airbnbs? Because this isn't what he does full time. And as we got to talking, I thought, hey, what you need is a commercial deal. If you buy a commercial property where you can buy one parcel for a couple million, $3, $4, $5 million, that is maybe already leased. If it's not leased, we could find a tenant, which would be a further value add, but you could collect an income from that, and you have something that's fairly easy to manage. You could turn that over to a commercial management property company, and you're going to save a ton of taxes. He didn't want to go into the stock market. He doesn't like the stock market. He likes real estate. He understands real estate, but he wasn't even thinking about, wow, I could go out there and buy a, commercial property that is going to solve my problem versus trying to buy, 10 or 15, $300,000 Airbnbs, which is probably going to turn into a headache for him and another problem. And if he does this and he gets a, depreciation study and he saves $2 or $3 or $4 million, then it doesn't matter if he gets a smoking good deal because he saved all that in taxes. And so I'm listening to people all the time and what is their problem, right? Instead of just like, how can I make money here? What can I do? How can I get what I want? I'm thinking about what is their problem? With the guy who needed to rent a space, I was like, his problem is he needs to get rid of this property that is going to cost a lot of money to get back up and running. He's fighting with the insurance company. He doesn't want to deal with it, right? That's his problem. And I can probably help him find another small warehouse to rent, even if it's not mine, but I can help him solve that problem. The guy with this, he's like, I want to buy Airbnbs. And I'm thinking, man, that's not really your problem. Your problem is you're going to owe a large amount of money in taxes. So how do we solve that? How can I help you solve that? And in that instance, he may buy something that has nothing to do with me, right? But I can still help him and connect him and create goodwill with the broker, the guy selling that, the guy buying that relationship, and where that will lead by helping people solve problems. So if you want to make money in real estate, look for the problems. Look for the stuff that's got a little hair on it. It's a little weird. They don't know what to do. They're losing money. It's not fun. And there's a way that you can solve it. Now, don't go buy somebody's problem that you can't fix. Obviously, you need to have a clear path of what you're going to do with that. But the money, every time that we have done well in real estate, is in the problems. And when you go to buy something that's like already perfect, it's already fully stabilized, it's already at fully market rent, it's 100% occupied, they've already done all the tax abatements and all the creative it's like that guy wants 99 cents on the dollar for that. There is no more value add to be done there. And there really is no risk. And so the reward is going to be really, really limited. So if you want to make these big wins, you've got to identify who in my market has problems. If you're flipping houses or you're doing single family rentals, like you're already doing this, right? You see a house that you know could be worth $350,000, but it needs $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of renovations. The person doesn't have it. They're getting divorced. They're getting foreclosed on, whatever. You're solving their problem. It's the same thing, but on a 10x, 20x, 100x scale in commercial. Your job is to still find those problems, help those people solve them, put the pieces together so that you can make money on the deal. All right, guys, that's what I got for you this week. Talk to you soon.